All right, let's just jump right in with a wild idea. You know how we all think of our brain as this biological hard drive, right? Just storing away every single thing we experience? Well, what if that's totally wrong? What if your memories aren't actually in your brain? Today, we're gonna dig into a pretty radical hypothesis that suggests exactly that. No, I'm serious, just let that sink in for a second. What if your brain isn't the vault where everything's kept safe? What if it's more like a terminal or a high-speed router, just accessing this huge, vast network of information? That's the core question we're looking at today, coming from a fascinating paper that could totally reimagine how we think about consciousness and memory. So you might be wondering, okay, why do we even need a theory this out there? Well, it's because conventional neuroscience, for all its advances, still has some real head-scratchers it can't quite solve. I mean, there are some truly baffling cases out there that just don't fit our current understanding of the brain. Okay, get this. How is it possible that someone can have half their brain removed, a procedure called a hemispherectomy, and still keep their core memories, their personality, basically who they are? Or what about this one? How can a person get a head injury and then suddenly wake up with genius-level musical or math skills? It's a real thing. It's called acquired savant syndrome. These cases, these anomalies, they really make you think. Maybe, just maybe, the data isn't stored where we've always assumed it was. So how on earth do you explain stuff like that? Well, the traditional view, the one we all kind of grew up with, sees the brain as a hard drive. It's self-contained. Everything you know is just filed away in there somewhere. But this new idea, which comes from a 2026 research paper, completely flips that on its head. It says, no, the brain isn't the hard drive. It's the processor and a wireless transceiver. It's a device that's built to handle what's happening right now and connect to something, well, something bigger. And that brings us to the name of this whole concept, the brain cloud idea. It's basically a framework that takes ideas from the world of IT, computers and networks, and uses them to try and make sense of these biological mysteries. Okay, so the official kind of sciencey term is brain cloud memory storage layering, or BCMSL for short. But what does that actually mean? Put simply, it's the idea that our memories are organized just like files on a computer, in this really complex layered system that exists outside of our physical brain. And this whole thing is built on what's called the transceiver model. It's a huge shift in how we look at things, really. The idea is your brain isn't some dusty old attic filled with boxes of memories. No, it's a super sophisticated high-speed router that's constantly pinging, sending, and receiving signals from a much, much larger information field. So the big question is, where's this router connecting to? Well, the paper calls it the universal cloud. And look, we're not talking about Amazon servers or data centers here. This is something else entirely, a non-physical informational dimension. Think of it as a permanent archive where the raw data of every single conscious experience is stored, forever. Okay, so if our brain is a transceiver, how does it work? Like, how does it decide what to upload? And how does it keep all that data organized? Well, the proposed mechanics are actually surprisingly logical. And yet, they borrow a lot from the world of computing. So the theory suggests we have this sort of internal algorithm. It's called the historical logic classification, or HLC. Just think of it as your brain's own personal spam filter, or data manager. It's constantly looking at new information and asking, is this useful? It flags experiences that are super emotional or totally new as high priority. And over time, it actually learns what you care about. And it starts prioritizing that kind of data to be saved to the cloud. And this is where it maps almost perfectly to computer science. You've got layer 0, the local cache. That's basically your brain's RAM. It's the stuff you need right this second to function. Then you have layers 1 and 2, the active cloud. That's your core identity, your skills, your recent memories. Then we get to layers 3 to 5, which is like cold storage for older memories you don't access much. And finally, there's the deep layer. That's the archive. It's for all the data you think you've forgotten. Okay, but hold on. How does a physical, biological brain connect to some non-physical cloud, right? This is where the theory gets, well, really wild. The proposed mechanism is something called atomic frequency resonance, and it suggests this whole connection is happening at the quantum level. And here's the core idea. The theory basically says that every single person is made of atoms that vibrate at a very specific, totally unique frequency. And that frequency, it acts like your own personal biological IP address. It's what gives you a secure, one-of-a-kind connection to your data out there in the universal cloud. Nobody else can access it. Now, this is where it gets really interesting and honestly kind of relatable for all of us. This whole framework gives us a new way to think about those sudden, vivid memories that pop up out of nowhere, the ones we were sure were gone forever. See, the most important point here is that in this model, a memory is never deleted. It's not gone, it's just locked away. Those forgotten memories are just moved to that deep layer, that archive we talked about. But there are special keys that can unlock the vault. And that's what the paper calls a sensory key. You know what I'm talking about, a specific smell, a sound, maybe a certain feeling that acts like a password, a cryptographic password, to be exact. The idea is that these sensory inputs have their own unique data signature, and you need that exact signature to decrypt and unlock the memory file it's linked to. So think about it. You smell rain hitting hot pavement, or you hear that one song from middle school, and bam. According to this theory, that sensory input is acting as a private key. It doesn't ask for permission. It just completely bypasses your logical brain and sends a direct ping to the cloud. And that forces the cloud to stream that long-lost data right back into your conscious mind. That's why those moments can feel so sudden, so intense, and so incredibly real. Okay, let's zoom out for a second. I know this is a heavy concept, it's a lot to take in, but let's just imagine. What if there's something to this? What would the real-world implications be if a theory like this were ever proven true? Now, first things first, it is absolutely crucial to remember this is a speculative hypothesis. It's a what if. The paper even has a cool name for the approach, informatics biomimicry. All that means is it's using the logic of our own technology, things we already understand, like cloud computing, as a metaphor, a new lens to look at these deep biological mysteries we haven't been able to solve yet. But if this idea holds any water at all, the implications are just staggering. I mean, it could completely reframe how we understand genius and savantism. Maybe some people just have a better Wi-Fi signal, you know? It could open up brand new avenues for treating psychological trauma, helping people find those sensory keys to unlock and finally reprocess things. And maybe most profoundly, it would fundamentally change our very definition of what it means to be a conscious self. And that really just leaves us with one last, big, provocative question to chew on. If your brain isn't the hard drive, if it's really just a highly sophisticated receiver, constantly tuned into this vast field of information, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? What signal are you tuned into right now? And what other signals are out there just waiting for you to find the right frequency?